big, thick bakery style cookies, but we're making them chocolate today. A lot of people call these New York style cookies, whatever you want to call them. They are thick, fat, and full of chocolate. We're using multiple different kinds of chocolate in this recipe, so let's get right to it. First, grab a large mixing bowl. Now let's talk about our butter. You will need 1 cup of unsalted butter for this recipe. I've cut that butter into tablespoon sized pieces and I've let it soften a bit, but it still has quite a chill to it. We're not using room temperature, oily or melty butter. This still is a bit chilled. That is just going to help us keep those cookies a little bit fatter when we bake them in the oven, and it's going to slightly reduce the amount of time we have to chill the dough. So let's drop that butter in there. It being cut into tablespoons while still cold is going to make it a little bit easier for us to beat it up with our mixer. Now before I add the sugar, I'm just going to beat the butter up a little bit just to make it easier to incorporate the sugar without the sugar flying everywhere. And once it looks like it's going to cooperate with the sugar, we can go ahead and add that. We are adding 1 cup of granulated sugar, my finger in some cocoa powder, and 2/3 cup of firmly packed light brown sugar. And now we are going to cream the butter and sugar together very well. So we're going to start on low speed, get that incorporated, turn our mixer speed up to medium high, and beat it for about 2 to 3 minutes until this is really well creamed. We're incorporating air into the dough, which is going to help those cookies stay a little bit thicker. A lot of my cookies, we melt the butter. We like them flat and chewy. Not today. Right here we have some well creamed butter and sugar. Just let you take a look at that. Also going to scrape the sides and bottom of the bowl a bit. Oops. Not to throw it everywhere. And we'll add our eggs. You'll need 2 large eggs for this recipe, and these are actually straight from the fridge. Since our other ingredients are a bit on the colder side, it's totally fine for your eggs to be cold here. And again, it helps us work towards our goal of having a cold dough. So cold eggs, we'll add them 1 at a time, and we'll beat very well after each addition. Egg number 1, egg number 2. And next we'll add our vanilla extract. We do a healthy pouring of vanilla here. I like to add 2 teaspoons. This is my homemade vanilla. I have shared videos on how to make this before. It's quite easy, just takes a little bit of time. Let's get that vanilla well incorporated into the batter, the dough. Perfect. 1 more quick scrape, and we'll just slide this out of the way to prepare our dry ingredients. So a medium-sized bowl should work really well for this. And you're going to need 3 cups of all-purpose flour. It's 375 grams. For the chocolate, we're using 1/2 cup of Dutch processed cocoa powder. We'll add 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of table salt. And I almost forgot the cornstarch, which is very important. We're adding 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. This ingredient is very important for helping give these cookies a nice tenderness without making them too dry. My oven's ready. Without making them too dry or too cakey like adding more flour would do, and it's going to help keep them from spreading. Cornstarch is one of my favorite secret ingredients to use in baking. It's not much of a secret anymore, but it really does work some magic. Let's get everything well combined. Try not to make too much of a mess. Looks pretty good. And we are going to gradually stir the dry ingredients into the wet. Now this is a pretty stiff and thick dough, which makes sense because they're pretty thick cookies. So do make sure you're adding the dry ingredients gradually. I would do it in 4 or 5 parts and stir until the dry ingredients are incorporated before adding the next portion of your dry ingredients. If you try to add everything too quickly, it's going to be really difficult for the wet ingredients to absorb that flour, and it can make the dough really difficult to work with. And I'm doing everything with my electric hand mixer today, but you could absolutely make this recipe in your stand mixer with the paddle attachment. That would be no problem. Last bit of our dry ingredients. It's like that last bit doesn't want to come out. All right, once everything looks pretty good, we are going to scrape the sides and bottom of the bowl to make sure all of that flour really is well incorporated. Just as I suspected, there's a little bit of flour hiding in there. Once you have all of the flour absorbed, we can add our other chocolate mix-ins. For our mix-ins, of course, there's more chocolate going into this dough, starting with some chopped chocolate. I like to take 6 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate baking bars and chop it into small pieces. This is going right in the dough. A bar is usually 4 ounces, so you typically need 1.5 of those. Then I also like to add mini chocolate chips. You're going to need more mini chocolate chips a little bit later on, but for now, we're taking 1 cup, adding that into the dough. Now the dough's pretty thick at this point. I usually just stir everything together by hand, kind of fold it in. Now if you wanted to add like nuts, toasted walnuts especially, I know are popular in like those New York style cookies, you could add chopped toasted walnuts. One thing that works out nicely is the dough will actually spread even less with walnuts added. But I find when I add walnuts, they also take away some of the sweetness of the cookie. They always just kind of seem to rob it of a little bit of flavor for me. So just keep that in mind if you want to experiment with adding those. I feel like I have this nicely combined, almost. Our dough's looking pretty good. This dough does need to chill, but I do the chilling process a little bit differently than I do it with a lot of my cookie recipes. Normally we'll chill the dough and then we'll scoop it. Today we are going to scoop the dough and then chill it. So I am making these big cookies. I'm going to be scooping about 1/3 cup of dough per cookie. I'll usually kind of just tuck the edges under so we have mostly a ball-shaped scoop. I don't usually roll these, but you can if you want. Then I'm going to take some extra mini chocolate chips and I just dip the top of the cookie, kind of roll it a little bit in that chocolate, and then we have scoop number 1. And we'll just repeat with all of the dough. Last cookie. This is about 3/4 cups of mini chocolate chips that I used for dipping the top. I am going to pop these cookies in the freezer for the next 20 minutes. Do you want to cover the cookie dough? During that time, I'm going to get my oven preheating to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. After those 20 minutes, I'm going to bake my first tray, space the cookies at least 2 inches apart. They're going to need some room to grow. Really, you should line your plate with wax paper. It'll make the cookies come up a little bit easier. And they need to bake about 11 to 12 minutes. Now, most likely, you're not going to be baking all of your cookies at one time. So those other waiting cookie doughs are going to come out of the freezer at the 20-minute mark, and they can sit in the fridge for as long as you want them to, so long as they're covered. I shouldn't say that. They can sit in there for up to 3 days covered. Don't want anybody wait until next year cooking their cookies and getting mad at me because they're no good. All right, these are nice and hot. One thing I like to do is take a little bit of flaky sea salt and just sprinkle it over the cookies before I serve them. It's optional, but I just think it adds a nice extra touch. Now these cookies are super hot, and if you were to cut into one of these or break it open while it's still even a little bit warm, it's gonna be super messy. It's gonna kind of fall apart in your hands. It's going to be very chocolatey, which is fine. You can put it in a bowl, add some ice cream, and it'll be amazing. But to make this a practical eating experience with a cookie, I recommend you let the cookies cool completely on the baking sheet before you dig in. Otherwise, they're just going to seem not done in the center. The only caveat I'd add is if you fear you may have slightly overbaked them, let them cool for a minute or 2 and then carefully remove them to a cooling rack. All right, these have had some time to cool, so let's go ahead and break one of them in half. There you have it. These are super chocolatey, incredible bakery-style chocolate cookies, and I really think you're going to love them. If you try them, let me know what you think. I really do always love hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Oh, I love these cookies. They're so soft and tender and so chocolatey. I see. It's been 4:39 for 3 minutes, I swear. Sorry, I shouldn't jump to that yet. Like, is that not a real time? Wash my hands. Is that, because I'm like waiting for that time to change. Oh, it is. It's been like 3 minutes. Okay, oops. My face gets so itchy when my hands are dirty.